So let's talk about something that will definitely never happen. I've got for you a couple of videos. Let's just go into the first one of Joe Biden explaining something that he would certainly never do.
Question regarding the family. I'm extremely proud of my son Hunter. He has overcome an addiction. He's one of the brightest, most decent men I know, and I am satisfied that I'm not going to do anything. I said I abide by the jury decision. I will do that, and I will not pardon him.
All right, then we got the next one.
I ask you, will you accept the jury's outcome, their verdict, no matter what it is?
Yes.
And have you ruled out a pardon for your son?
Yes.
Right, and then of course we got his press secretary making it abundantly clear.
Will the president pardon or commute his son if he's convicted?
So I've answered this question before. It was asked of me not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago, and I was very clear, and I said no.
Okay, let me go back to the first question of the briefing. I know you said...
Anyway, then she changes outfit about 9 or 6 times and basically says the same thing over and over again. Now, the fascinating thing about this is that the corporate media actually believed it. Now, this is quite a long video, as you can imagine, because there's quite a lot of believing going on with the corporate media, but it is worth playing just a little bit of this to see how much they were completely synced into it. There we go, let's play... there we go.
Presidential promise to put the law before family.
I said I abide by the jury decision. I will do that, and I will not pardon him.
Letting the world know that he will not wipe away the decision of 12 of his son's peers.
Was asked directly, and he has said he wouldn't pardon his son if he gets convicted.
Let's wait to see what happens if he loses.
Yeah, but he said it.
He's going to get pardoned by his dad. There's no question about that.
The president has ruled out pardoning his son.
Major commitment from the president, accepting the outcome of the trial and also pledging not to pardon his son.
So the challenge for him is really to continue to live up to his values when it was really personal, and he did that today.
It seems like a pretty normal, straightforward answer, but it takes new weight when we see what Trump is saying about the outcome of his trial, what we're hearing from other Republicans who say they don't accept the jury's verdict here in New York.
The contrast is profound. To sit there and say, well, I'm not going to intervene in the legal process, and I wouldn't pardon my son. One side, Democrats and Joe Biden protecting the justice system. And on the other, Republicans and Trump protecting Trump.
Our current president of the United States has so much respect for the law that he has said he would not pardon his son. I mean, again, it's all about the contrast.
President Biden saying, I will respect whatever this jury decides versus Donald Trump after he was convicted on 34 counts, saying the entire system.
But if you speed them up, apparently it does.
Well, yeah, you kind of have to do so much. I mean, I'll stop it there. There's loads more of that. But there you go. As you can see, under no circumstances is Joe Biden going to pardon his son. Breaking news, Joe Biden's pardoned his son. So this is the statement that came out where basically he then goes on to blame Donald Trump for him pardoning his son. Nice. Yes.
I don't know how...
It's those Republicans what made me do it.
I did go back and I watched a whole bunch of CNN and MSNBC takes subsequent to this news. Yes. And I did have to laugh at the first panel because it was these 4 women panellists who were on MSNBC or whatever it was, and they asked the first one, this is the breaking news and what do you think of it? And the first one was like, oh shit, I don't know what the line to take on this is. Right. And so she just squirmed and said, I don't come back, don't ask me. And then the next one came along and she was a little bit cleverer, this one, and she was like, yes, it's disappointing that he's done that, but it's Trump who's lowered the standards in politics, and this is all, this is kind of Trump's fault. So
absolutely perfect narcissistic defense. Yes, I cheated on you. Yes, I stole from you, but can't you see how this is slightly your fault?
Well, yes.
You made me do the crimes. I didn't want to do them.
Would I be able to quickly say what I think actually has
yes, go on.
So I think he came out and said those things when the Democratic establishment was behind him, but as we know, they stabbed him in the back and put Kamala Harris in his place. And so he doesn't feel any obligation to them anymore, and so his final act in politics is going to be to pardon his son, because he's got nothing left to lose, because he doesn't care about politics anymore. And it's pretty self-evident if you look at any videos of him now, he's pretty happy that he's not involved in politics anymore.
Yes. I mean, I won't go through all the details on this statement because... on our other channel, the Daily Channel, Carl went into a bit more. Just some observations. First of all, it is still only the beginning of December, and Joe's term runs until whatever it is on January.
7?
Something like that. Yeah. So he might need to issue another pardon if Hunter commits any more crimes between now and then.
It's entirely possible, yeah.
Hunter needs to get them in. He needs to go on a crack bender, get his crimes in, get pardoned.
Well, apparently this was agreed, if we believe the Biden story, over Thanksgiving dinner. So
he must have brought some really good strippers with him to that Thanksgiving dinner.
And it's incredibly broad, this pardon. It's basically for any crime he's committed in the last 10 years. So he could have a mountain of dead hookers, which for Hunter Biden is actually quite possible, buried under his
maybe not
patio.
Direct murder, but through disease and
that's a federal crime, isn't it, or was that a state crime? I don't know.
So he's had a blanket pardon for anything that happened in the last
any crimes committed, discovered, charged, uncharged.
This is good because it exposes the shameless hypocrisy and shameless nepotism that they're constantly accusing the other side of.
Yes.
They're doing exactly what they can't. So that guy should have gone to prison because that's the law, but this is good. This helps.
So to put this into context, Biden called the prosecution of his son selective and political, but it was done by his DOJ, right? And the reason that they brought those charges is because they wanted to charge him on the gun crime and then let all of the other stuff basically, slip to the side.
Yeah.
So it's kind of
he's a registered felon, and then therefore he's not allowed to own a firearm. And he had a falling out with, I think, his sister's widow, who he also started dating. Weird. But he ended up putting that gun in the bin or in the trash.
Yes.
And that is also a crime as well.
What a criminal genius.
Well, and all of this is going on at the same time that, FBI SWAT teams are raiding Catholic churches, parishes, treating parents as domestic terrorists if they turn up to, school meetings and complain about the literature. In fact, the Department of Justice has just ordered a 75-year-old Catholic woman to jail because she silently prayed near an abortion centre. Yes. So
was that in the States? Because I know we have that here.
Yes.
Prayed,
her name was Paulette Harlow.
She prayed too close to the abortion centre.
Yes. In her head, silently.
I hope they burned her.
To jail for you.
That's offensive to the Satanists that run the Democratic establishment.
I should also point out that the what I was saying before about the gun charge, because it kind of diverted attention away from the real crime, which was being a sort of bag man for the Ukrainian money laundering operation. His brother Jim is in the same situation as Hunter here. So you've got to wonder, is Jim going to get a pardon closer to the date of whatever it is in January?
If it's all part of the mad scramble to take the last few bits and pieces of opportunity, I mean, they'll probably steal the knives and forks when they leave the White House. It's anything and everything. Yes. It's such an unseemly scramble to leave, to take as much as they possibly can and to leave as big of a mess as they can for Trump to deal with when he gets in, vis-a-vis the Ukrainian situation.
I'll tell you why I'm so upset with this.
Sorry.
The reason I'm so upset with this is because, did anyone see this coming?
Yes.
I think everybody on this panel saw it coming. Everybody in the audience saw it coming. So why am I so upset? Because it turns out there was a bloody Polymarket betting line open on this. We could have 4x'd our money. Because liberals were coming in here and saying, no, of course he's not going to pardon his son. He said he's not.
What do you think of the rates? I was doing work on this in 2021 when Biden was assuming office, and I was just like, well, he's done lots of crimes. It's undeniable he's going to be convicted for these. I could have made so much money.
And the reason I'm so upset with myself is because this is so wildly obvious, and there was a way to quadruple my money, but it never occurred to me that there would be a market for something this blindingly obvious. But this is a perfect trade because you've got all the liberals on the other side saying, of course it's not going to happen. He said it's not going to happen.
So you can make money out of liberal delusion.
Yes.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, when I do that on markets, it never occurred to me to check Polymarket. So this Christmas, I'm going to have to spend the time that I would have spent, rewatching Band of Brothers and doing a jigsaw puzzle. I'm going to have to spend it combing Polymarket.
Is there like a Polymarket odds on whether Donald Trump is going to overthrow democracy or something like that? Because I'm willing to put money on that.
Yeah, how do you quantify that though? You need to kind of clear. Well, possibly, but The left is not wildly happy with this because they bought into this 110%, and they're now made to look rather silly.
What do you make of all of this? What is likely to be the response on Capitol Hill to this breaking news?
Good to be with you. See, I told you so. They're all like that. So the next time any of us complain about anything Trump does, this pardon is just deflating. For those of us who have been out there for a few years now yelling about what a unique threat Donald Trump is, for Joe Biden to do something like this, Trump, nobody's above the law, we've been screaming. Well, Joe Biden just made clear his son Hunter is above the law. Donald Trump lies every time he opens his mouth, we've been screaming. Joe Biden repeatedly lied about this. The politicization of the justice system, Donald Trump and his people have been screaming. Well, that's exactly what Biden said here.
Joe, is this a politics of purity? I mean, we had Donald.
So yes, I mean the left knows they haven't got a leg to stand on this one. Completely flies in the face of everything they do. Also, let's come back to the point about the pardon going back to 2014. Why 2014, you might well ask? Well, that was when Hunter Biden was appointed as a Burisma director.
Oh.
Presumably because of his deep background in the energy sector, which he didn't have.
Was it $200,000 a year?
No. It was millions a year. It was $200,000 a month or a week or something.
Oh, it sounds about right. That's the figure I've got in my head. But of course, he is just any old law graduate, probably not even a particularly good one.
Yes.
I can't remember exactly his formal qualifications, but it was so obvious because at the time Biden was vice president to Obama, I believe, and Biden was directly overseeing the business in Ukraine for Obama.
So what marketable, you're asking the question, what marketable skills did Hunter have? He had access to his dad.
Mm-hmm.
That's the skill.
Well, that's it. That's the only possible thing they could be paying him that kind of money for.
Exactly, and it's a way to start funneling money from Ukraine to Joe Biden, which we can only assume has continued somewhat since then.
It's outrageous, really, isn't it? I mean, one of the wherever you stand on whether Ukraine should be in NATO or in the EU or whatever, one of the reasons for them not being able to join the EU that's been cited again and again is the same reasons why Serbia fails or Bosnia fails to get their applications to the EU. It's highly, highly corrupt. You see the Americans doing
yes,
and you think, well, how is this any different to Serbia? How is this
the Democrats are just a little bit better at hiding it because they also control the media. Now, if you want the full details on this, on our other channel, Lotus Eaters Daily, Carl got into all of that stuff yesterday, which for the interest of time I can't cover here. But for me, the short takeaway is this. President Trump was impeached for looking into the things that Hunter Biden has just been pardoned for.
That is true, yeah.
Because remember, he was impeached for investigating what was going on in Ukraine.
That's what he was impeached for?
Yes, because he asked that question about that prosecutor that Joe Biden arranged to have sacked.
And that was
looking
that triggered
into
an impeachment?
Yeah, and because he looked into it, that's what they impeached him for. And which we're told there was nothing iffy going on there. But Hunter Biden's just been pardoned for that thing that Trump was looking in for that got him impeached.
I've just popped an article in our studio thing for Samson to pull up quickly. I created a timeline from about 2012 up until about 2020 of all of the business dealings that Hunter did. I mapped them in a timeline, and when you see them in that format, it seems pretty resounding.
There we go. So that's an article on our website where you can follow the timeline.
Yeah, so this covers his dealings in China, Ukraine, and Russia. Interesting selection of countries. These seem to be the only countries that he dealt in, and they are all political enemies, well, except maybe Ukraine, of the United States.
This is one of the things that leads to the general malaise and sense of learned helplessness, cynicism, nihilism that infects the general public. Because when this type of thing happens, what is it? That's the social contract, right, between us and the state.
Oh, that's long gone.
Torn to pieces. Why should we obey the law? Why should we pay taxes? Why should we do anything we're being told to do when the people in power are... You don't mind a little bit. You don't mind a bit around the edges. Everybody can deal with that as long as the trains run on time and the potholes are filled in. But this is outrageous. And because we're so impotent as people to do anything about it.
What are we going to do about it?
You just drop into learned helplessness. You just drop into that the state you mentioned before, which is another end result of prolonged, sustained gaslighting and narcissistic abuse.
Yes. Now, the obvious question comes up. If Hunter Biden was getting paid all of that money, what did he spend it on? Well, luckily, we know, because this is his bank records, which, of course, we obtained from the laptop, which I'll be talking about more in a minute. So let's have a look at some highlights of what he was spending his money on. Well, the top, as you can see there, 1.7 million went on cash withdrawals from ATMs. Now, I presume in America they also have debit cards and those little plastic things that you pay with. So why do you need to take out a vast amount of money in cash?
Drugs.
Yes.
Drugs.
Yes, I think you've got it. Now, I have to say...
Only drugs.
That is a lot of drugs.
Well, that's a lot of time at an ATM. I would love to know, to take out 1.6 million in cash at an ATM, how long do you have to actually stand there? I mean, pull it? He must have been there more often than not. When was the guy eating?
I'd have to do the sums, but I don't know what the limit is. So is the limit like £500? So let's say it's $500. Do it twice a day. You go past the cash point machine. Does it?
365, 365, 365. Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 or 3 times a day.
Yeah.
$500
It gets you there.
Is crack cocaine gone up in price significantly?
That's the other thing I was thinking. Surely for 1.6 million you could satiate an entire Glaswegian council estate, and that was one man.
At least for a day, yeah. But yeah, I don't understand because he's been mainly photographed by himself smoking crack.
Well, I suppose he had to share it with the hookers, which we come to in a second.
At least he's generous.
But I mean, the man must have a superhero level of liver or something.
He must be very resilient. I'm kind of impressed.
Yes. The next line is payments for various women. What is that? $700,000. Okay, fair enough.
Good Lord. It couldn't have been written up as various women, surely.
So that's interesting that a drug habit is multiple times more expensive than women. I never would have thought that.
I'm not sure. Should it be that way round?
I'm surprised.
It's not been in my life.
I mean, surely if you're given the choice between expensive drugs and cheap women or expensive women and cheap drugs, you choose the latter.
These are the deep philosophical questions that we should be tackling on the podcast of the Lotus Eaters.
Let's have a look at some other stuff. So lots of money on clothes, health, probably getting detoxed.
Blimey, that's a lot.
Education, I doubt that. Adult entertainment, 200 grand on porn.
How does one even do that if you want to?
Well, that is an awful lot of porn.
The other stuff and that, was that all he was doing 24/7?
Plus, also it's free.
He's either at the ATM, in his room, or smoking crack with hookers. Apparently, he doesn't do.
I mean, how many? I mean, I appreciate there's a lot of porn sites. I mean, despite the fact that it's all free anyway, there's a lot of porn. But are there like 200 grand a year worth of? Oh, it's over a 3-year period, but still.
If you subscribe to all of them, that guy was busy. I mean, I think what we're missing here is very resilient. He's disciplined. He's committed, and I like to see that in a human being. He's gone for it. I mean, yeah, nearly 200,000.
If you're going to be a degenerate, you may as well
go
all
the
way.
Oh, it's the gold standard of degeneracy. This is very industrious degeneracy, so I will give him that.
There's a token gesture towards rehab for drug, and I'll just send a little 70 grand.
What is it? 70 grand.
Get dad off my back for a week.
Turns out if you spend less on rehab than the drugs you're buying, that probably doesn't work. Yeah.
Yes. So where am I getting all this? Well, it's from his laptop that everybody knows at the moment. There is
I've seen going through the pictures.
Well, indeed. There is a 630-page report on the laptop breaking it all down, featuring 191 sex crimes, 128 drug crimes, and 140 business crimes, other crimes.
These were depicted on the laptop.
They were all documented on his laptop, which he left in that computer shop.
But sex crimes he was involved in?
Yes. Well, he filmed everything.
He's like the world's best investigator in self-incrimination, isn't he?
Yes.
That is just
Well, he would just film himself doing these things.
And sorry to linger on that point. What qualified them as sex crimes? Is it because they were prostitutes in states where prostitution is illegal? Was it non-consensual?
Well, there's a number of things that you might find in there. So I've had to redact this a little bit, but here is Hunter spending quality time with a very young lady. Yeah. Did you guys remove my other photo? I don't know. Here we go. So here we are. Quality time with a very young lady. Good. Now they made me blur out this image excessively, but she has very short arms. She has a sort of very childlike face. I don't know what the details here are.
Right.
But it was. I mean, there's hundreds of pages of this stuff.
Wow.
Yes. And he's normally sort of filming himself doing drugs with them as well. So
almost definitely with minors.
Well, I don't know.
Or
it's suspected. I think.
Yes.
Suspected. Yeah. That young lady looks underage.
Yeah, that does look like a 14-year-old to me. Yeah. But I mean, I don't even know if it's his niece or not. I mean, who knows with this chap? Other images that we were on there, and I do wonder if the next image is the mysterious pedo Pete that he mentions in his emails. But look at that old codger getting rather friendly with a naked underage girl.
That's
who does that look like?
I just want to smell your hair, man. Let me sniff. Come on, man. Let me sniff your skull.
That is that pedo Pete fella that he mysteriously had saved to his contacts, isn't it?
Yes, that he was. Yes. So who knows who that?
This character was saved in his contacts as pedo Pete.
It was just a family inside joke.
I
remember.
I see.
That's what he explained it as in the media.
I mean, that seems like a perfectly ordinary family joke. I mean,
yeah, that's rather damning.
You would call your dad pedo Dave, wouldn't you? I mean, it's just. It's just a bit of banter.
It's a banter. It's me and my father just.
It's also worth mentioning Ashley Biden's diary. I don't know whether you mentioned that, Dan.
No, I haven't. No.
Yeah, she mentioned that she took showers with Joe at a
20s,
much older age.
Well, she described how even into her 20s she would have to shower at night once he'd gone to sleep. Otherwise, he'd come and get in with her.
And that's he's the uncle or the.
That is Hunter. Well, some people would say that guy in the photo there bears a striking resemblance to Hunter's father.
And what would the relationship be with the young lady? Well, there's no reason for him to
the young woman in question would have been his daughter. Yes.
Oh God.
Yes. So you can imagine why they were a bit keen that this laptop did not get discussed much at all. Oh. But before we move on to that, let's just remind ourselves what was on the ballot when this chap came to office. Here we are, Dr. Jill Biden, decency is on the ballot.
Wow. Interesting top comment there. Don't scroll down, please.
Probably best not. Anyway,
YouTube will take some, but not too much. Yes, yeah.
Decency is on the ballot, and decency is well, I suppose it's questionable as to whether we actually got that or not. So, as you can imagine, they wanted to shut it down. Here are the 51 intelligence agents who swore that the laptop was made up.
Just a wall of liars.
If it was made up, why has he just received a pardon? Interesting question. They went from the laptop isn't real to he has federal immunity for the crimes documented within it.
Were these an official signed witness statements?
Yeah, they all wrote a letter. They're 51 intelligence agency bosses or former bosses, and they all wrote a letter saying that this laptop is just made up. It's Russian propaganda.
Oh, these are all intelligence agents. Wow. So the corruption.
Ironic name, yeah.
Really is. The rot is in deep. That's disgusting.
Some quick takeaways from this. Democrats have to pay a price for this. Otherwise, it's just one of those things again where we accept that Democrats are immune to consequences of their actions. Another takeaway is that there is no such thing as rule of law. There is only power, its friends and its enemies. If you are a friend, then you don't need to worry about the law, basically. And the other thing, which is a positive, I suppose, is that Joe Biden has taken away the issue of pardons out of the political arena for at least the next 4 years. Why is that important? Well, because we've got J6ers who are being kept in conditions like this. This particular chap has been kept in conditions like this for 4 years, and he hasn't even come to trial yet.
I've spoke to Jacob Lang from prison twice. And at one point, he was facing the most charges out of any of them. He was saying that the conditions that they were being kept in were horrible, and in many ways, they weren't allowed to see their family, and the only people that were really allowed to see them for a certain period of time were actually elected officials. I think Marjorie Taylor Greene and a few others came and actually visited them in prison, but it does seem like they've been treated very harshly, proportionate to what they actually did themselves.
But we're expected to believe that the US is not a banana republic when its friends get treated the way that Hunter has, lavished with money, hookers, drugs and pardons, and people who protested against the shenanigans with the last election gets basically locked away in conditions like this, which are utterly inhumane. You wouldn't keep an animal in a condition like that.
No, absolutely not.
So day one, Trump has to, and I will get very agitated if he doesn't do this. Day one, he needs to just pardon all of them.
He has at least hinted at it so far.
Well, he better do more than bloody hint.
I agree.
He better do it on day one. Closing thoughts. Because we talked about how he's pardoned his son and he might need to pardon his brother. How many more Democratic criminals are there? That's the interesting. Well, Keith Olbermann has answered that question for us.
You've gone back to the start.
Oh, there we go. Here we are. Keith Olbermann says, pardon Hunter, great. Now pardon everybody else. Every prosecutor, every Biden administration staffer, every media figure, everybody Trump will prosecute. 10 million pardons at least. Now, let's run the numbers on that. 81 million people apparently voted for Joe Biden. Keith Olbermann reckons you need to issue pardons for 10 million of them. So basically he's saying that 1 in 8 Democrats is a criminal. Let's just sense check that. Does that sound about right? I think that sounds about right.
Too low, if anything.
You think it's more than 1 in 8?
Well, they're just the criminals involved in the regime. What about just the garden variety criminals, the people that are let out by the Soros DAs and people like that, who are just more traditional criminals?
I think the number is about accurate. Because there must be some Democrats who aren't criminals. There must be a decent number of them. But 1 in 8, I don't know. I think that's fair.
It does seem to be so for this particular administration. It does seem to have been a highly narcissistic, highly psychopathic administration, and people who resonate with it, they'll resonate with it because it resonates with their core values or lack thereof.
Yes.
I hope you appreciated that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, and if you want to see what else we're up to, you could always go over to our website and watch Bo's 12-part series, at least so far, about Caesar's life and ancient Rome. And if you want to see all the other things that we're up to, you can always follow us on Twitter. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.